ちのソフトは難しいよ。
テクノファンタジータイト
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Video Game Esoteric on a continuing series on the Taito Type X2 arcade platform. Today we're taking a look at Akai Katana Shin. And it's a really interesting story behind this because this is a port of a mode in the Xbox 360 version, but it has the original arcade graphics versus the HD remake graphics on the Xbox 360 version. So it's a real big mishmash of different versions of Akai Katana, but it is definitely one of my favorite. And I really appreciate it because while I love the TATE mode, Cave Shmups, I also really love their horizontal stuff, things like Deathsmiles, Progear, and Akai Katana. I like a horizontal shmup from Cave, and as you can see right off the top, this is classic Cave bullet hell through and through, and it has some sort of vibes as well to me that makes it feel a little bit like Progear as well. Now I know this isn't as much of a steampunk game as Progear was, but we're using these planes and everything seems a little bit older in that genre. Almost gives you a little bit of Metal Slug vibe as well, but I've been playing a lot of Metal Slug games recently, so maybe that's what it is. Interestingly, this game didn't seem to be as well regarded as some other Cave shmups that have come out. I mean, the review scores are still really good for it, but it's in the lower end of the Cave review kind of hierarchy, which I'm not quite sure why, but then again, I'm sure if you're a really hardcore shmup player, maybe this doesn't have exactly what you're looking for. I'm doing this from more of a casual perspective. But the game is absolutely amazing to play, and it plays spectacularly on the Type X2 arcade board, which is how I'm playing all of these games. It's responsive, the control sticks work perfectly on JVS, which is something you're really going to need because you can see the bullet patterns are extremely intense, and I love that the boss just brings up a battleship right into the fight as well. Being the first stage, the bullet patterns are relatively easier to deal with, but it's still going to give you enough challenge. But stage 1 is definitely one where if you've never played a bullet hell game before, you might still be able to navigate in and out. And you'll see that I do have that satellite ship that's shooting in different directions, and that's wholly controlled by how you move the stick itself and your character's movement. So it's really something that you have two different things to manage at once, your direct in front of you shot as well as that satellite ship and moving up and down to swing it around you. But I love that as a mechanic. Now, if you've never played a bullet hell game before, you're going to see that little glowing green orb in the middle of my plane. That is my hitbox. A bullet can touch any other part of your character and you are totally fine. You just want to make sure that any of the enemy projectiles do not touch that small green sprite. So while at the top it may seem almost impossible to avoid the bullets, once you actually realize what you're trying to aim for and make sure you avoid, it's relatively easier. Now, I'm not saying this game is easy in any way, shape, or form, and you will see I take my first death right there, but it is generous enough with that hitbox that you will be okay. And I absolutely love learning these games, and I love this game too because it's got such nice patterns to the bullets, and if you do get in trouble like I did there, you just pop a quick bomb off and all those projectiles will disappear. Now there's a whole scoring mechanic in this game about chaining combos, and I generally don't play for the score mechanic, but Shin has its own scoring methodology compared to the base game, so if you are playing the Taito X2 version, you might want to look up the scoring mechanics specifically for Shin, because they are going to be important to you. And the bosses are great as well. They're not the biggest sprites in the world, but they always seem to pop different things up on screen. And I just love those bursts of projectiles. They look nice. They're hard to get through without being impossible. And you can see here I did transition my character to a different mode, which gives you a different alt fire. But as good as this game plays, as spectacular as the bullet patterns are, as much fun as I have with it, this also has an absolutely amazing soundtrack, so go ahead and listen for like 35-45 seconds and I'll come back and tell you more about why Akai Katana Shin on the Taito X2 platform is one of my favorite Cave shmups of all time. But enjoy!
NESiCAxLive 後ろ
熱くなってきたぜ。
消えなさい。
Cave composers always make great soundtrack tracks, and Akai Katana Shin is definitely one of them. It may have my favorite soundtrack in a Cave game of all time outside of Deathsmiles, because I just love that gothic horror theming in there with a little bit of the holiday mix. But I also love that this game isn't just moving left to right. You're going to be going down as well. You'll see here, using that satellite ship and moving your ship around is going to be really important because we only have that forward projectile. And I will say that the downward movement sometimes gets me a little bit and it becomes slightly difficult to navigate around. But if I played the game more, I'm sure I would get better at it, because I played this game a ton when it came out on the 360, because it was one of those releases that actually came over to North America. It's not often that Cave games do, but it's been a few years since I've played it, and now that I'm doing this capture for the X2, you can see I do struggle in spots a little bit. But this game is just so much fun. I love these bullet patterns, I love the speed of them, and even though I take a death here and there, getting through at least 30 seconds of a boss bullet pattern is enough to make me really feel like I've accomplished something. And that's the great thing about a bullet hell shmup, is that it does make you feel like you're accomplishing things. You're constantly learning different patterns, you're learning different techniques, and you're memorizing what's going on, because if you play this game near constantly for maybe a week or two, you're going to start to realize that you know exactly what bullet pattern is coming next, and you're going to remember how you get around that bullet pattern. And that's why I always enjoy these type of games, even if I'm not the best at them, is that it's a great learning experience. The same thing like a rhythm game where you just practice and train, and you can feel yourself getting better in real time. Now, the one issue I take with this game, and it's not has anything to do with the game whatsoever, is that when bosses are loading on my Type X2, there is a little bit of hitching and hanging before anything happens. It never happens when there's bullets on screen, but it seems like maybe the hard drive, even though it's solid state, the data transfer rate in the Type X2 isn't keeping up, or maybe that's just something that I am experiencing with the type of hard drive I put in. But it really isn't a complaint against the game whatsoever. Now, would I recommend you buy a Type X2 to play this game? Probably not, because you can buy a used copy on the 360 and play it at home. But if you're into arcade platforms and you want to buy a Type X2 because it's got so many awesome games, this is definitely one you're going to want to put on this system, because this is the game that you can spend absolute hours with. And I love that these bullets are actually grenades as well. They're not just always circles of different colors in this game. You get those grenades and all of these different things floating around. You'll see here navigating around and trying not to get hit. I do make it through, and the sense of accomplishment for doing that is spectacular. When I was capturing this, I was really intently playing it, and when I was doing well, it's one of the most satisfying feelings in gaming to me. Maybe you're not that into shmups or bullet hell shmups, but give it a try, and I think once you realize when you get better at it, you're going to start feeling that sense of satisfaction as well, and just really enjoying it, because this is the type of thing that just makes me happy to play. And it's a quick pick up and play. You can get through the entire game in 20 minutes if you're playing on free play. I probably used about 10 credits to see the ending of this for the capture, and if you're in arcades, that's really not too bad whatsoever. But as far as this game being a horizontal bullet hell shmup, we don't get that many of them. It seems like TATE mode is the preferred methodology for having a bullet hell game, but you will see that every once in a while it does go vertical, even if we are in that 16:9 horizontal aspect. And you can definitely get stuck behind ships, but you'll see here navigating through those bullet patterns, there actually is a way through. And even though we're crunched up on the right hand side of the screen here, we are able to get through perfectly, and that's just a great feeling. I love it when that happens. But you can see there I kind of got jammed up in a spot I didn't want to be, and that's when those bombs are going to become so important to you, because not only do they take a lot of damage off of your opponent, they're also going to be your escape. And you'll see here we're attacking a giant helicopter, and I love the patterns specifically on that helicopter. They're so geometric shaped. Those are the ones that I find easy to get through. It's more of the organic patterns that I have a little trouble with, but maybe your brain will be completely different, and that is the fun thing about this type of game. Everybody sees it slightly differently. It's a memorization exercise, it's a pattern-based recognition exercise, and it's a muscle memory exercise. The more you play, the better you get, the more you remember, the more you can start getting through different areas of the game that seemed impossible at first. And that's why I've always gravitated towards shmups, and bullet hell shmups in particular, is because they give me that sense of satisfaction of learning a game. And if you've never played any cave shmup whatsoever, Akai Katana Shin might not be the best they've ever made, but it is a really good place to start. But short of that, leave me a comment down below. Tell me if you're into bullet hell games. I love chatting with you guys. Like and subscribe to that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. We got a Patreon link in the description below if you're so inclined. But I will be back next week with more Taito Type X2 games. But I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.